Welcome to this module on automating DHCP with PowerShell. In this module, we're going to dive into getting started with DHCP server management. We're going to configure some scopes, manage leases and reservations, and work with DHCP options. So let's get going. Now, why would you want to invest your time and energy into this? Allow me to lay it out for you. To kick things off, let's talk about reducing administrative overhead. Imagine a typical day of manually configuring DHCP scopes and options. Now picture cutting that time in half or even more with PowerShell. No more clicking through endless dialog boxes. You can define your entire DHCP configuration in a simple script. Now let's tackle the idea of automating repetitive tasks. Say you have to set up scopes for different VLANs in an organization with various subnets. Instead of spending hours going through each scope individually, you can use a PowerShell script to loop through an array of subnets and set them all up in one go. It's not just a time saver. That's a game changer. Now let's talk about streamlining multi-server management. You're probably familiar with a scenario where you have DHCP servers at different locations or maybe even in the cloud. PowerShell allows you to manage them all from a single point. You can run a script and simultaneously update configurations on servers that are miles or even continents apart. Then we have idempotent configuration scripts. Now, this might sound fancy, but it's simple. Say you have a strict server configuration policy. With idempotent scripts, you can configure the same PowerShell commands again and again, and the outcome will be identical every time. This is compliance and consistency rolled into one. And lastly, it's all about increased efficiency. With automation, you're not just doing tasks quicker, you're doing them more reliably. And that's the kind of skill set that makes you an invaluable member of any IT team. Let's kick off the demos here by doing a side-by-side comparison to show you just how much time you can save by managing your DHCP scopes with PowerShell. First up, we'll walk you through the steps of creating a DHCP scope using the GUI on a Windows server. This is the way most of us started, right? Clicking around in the DHCP management console. Then we'll switch gears and show you how to perform the same task, but this time using PowerShell commands. Quick and efficient, that's the goal. And to make things interesting, we're going to time both methods. By the end of this demo, you'll see firsthand the time you could be saving, which in the IT world, time is money. And then finally, we'll wrap up by analyzing the pros and cons of each method. Spoiler alert, PowerShell is likely going to come out on top, but it's good to know your options. So here we are on my DHCP server with a PowerShell core window open and the DHCP management console open. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to be doing any talking since this is actually just going to be a head-to-head combo. So I don't want to slow myself down talking and to give each of the options the upper hand. I'll go ahead and start the timer. I'm going to create the scope in PowerShell and then create it in the GUI, and then we're going to compare. All right, so let's get started. Time. So I created the scope, just a very basic scope with the GUI. So now let's figure out how long that actually took. So the GUI start time, let's see what that value was. It was 4:43 and 40 seconds, and we stopped at 4:44 and 6 seconds. So it took about 26 seconds, roughly 30 seconds or so, to create a standard DHCP scope with the GUI. Now that we've done this with the GUI, let's see how long this actually takes with PowerShell, which is essentially just going to be, let's see how fast Adam can type. And we are done. Check and get date. All right, now we check the difference. And let's see, what is the difference there? 4:49.29 and 4:48.58. So that's like, 31 seconds. It's about the same. That's because a lot of my fat fingering in my typing. But the point of comparing these side by side wasn't generally just the one-off thing. It's the ability to copy and paste. So let's say that I wanted to create another one of these scopes. I could simply up arrow a few times, then change the start range and the end range or the subnet mask, wherever I need to do, and it would take me 5 seconds. Literally just 3 seconds even, just to change a few numbers and hit the enter button. Versus with the GUI, I would have to come up here, right click, new scope, blah, 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 yada, 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 and do the same thing again. So using PowerShell And to automate this process, which you'll see throughout this module, is going to save you tons of time in the long run.